CM 365, all about Carnatic music.
Many Rasikas have evinced interest in knowing about the Lakshana of various ragas. So today I thought I'll share something about an ancient ragam, Dhanyasi. We see that from the medieval period, Dhanyasi finds a reference in various texts like Sangeetha Makaranda, Sangeetha Samayasara, Sangeetha Ratnakara and so on. But however, we see that very interestingly, the Lakshana of Dhanyasi as given in these texts is quite different. And there is also a doubt about whether this ragam, the one they are meaning as Dhanyasi, is actually Shuddha Dhanyasi, because of the fact that in all these texts we see that the shlokas mention Dhanyasi as having the Ri and Da absent both in the ascent and the descent. So what they mean is the scale having Sagama Panisa Sani Pamagasa, which goes like Sagama Panisa Sani Pamagasa. So though they have mentioned this as Dhanyasi, in today's context we would probably relate this scale only to Shuddha Dhanyasi. And in the 1500 AD we see, around 1550 AD we see that the Swaramela Kalanidhi mentions Dhanyasi as a janya of the Shri Raga Mela. And even in that you see that the slight change which happens here is that though it is mentioned as a janya of the Shri Raga Mela here, it gives it the character of a Audava Sampurna scale, that is 5 note in the ascent and 7 note in the descent. But it is only later on we find that this Dhanyasi as we see today, that the character that we are seeing today as a janya of the 8th Melagartha Hanumatodi, the definition has been given by Govindacharya, who classifies Dhanyasi under the 8th Mela. But Dhanyasi, the mention of this ragam we also see in the compositions of Purandaradasa, Bhadrachala Ramdasa, and also in the Annamacharya Sankirtanas we see a mention of this Dhanyasi. Now Subbarama Dikshidhar also gives a lucid picture of this raga in the way we look at it today, that is with Sagama Panisa Sani Dapa Magarisa as a janya of the 8th Mela again. Now the Trinity, we always hold them in high esteem because of the fact that it is only through their compositions that many ragas, the Lakshana gets actually crystallized and concretized. And in that sense, we owe a lot to the Trinity for composing so many compositions in Dhanyasi, that is Tyagaraja, Dikshidhar and Shyama Sastri. 3 of them they composed compositions in Dhanyasi and gave it a great stature, I would say. Later on, of course, Papanasam Sivan and others have also composed, but the compositions of the Trinity actually we could say that this has given a boost to this ragam. And among the 28 ragams commonly handled by the Trinity, Dhanyasi is also one among them. And it is supposed to be a Mangala ragam and an auspicious ragam. And if you want to look at some ragam which is very proximate to it in terms of some of the common phrases handled, we could say that Ghanta is one such ragam. And it is basically a very classy ragam, I would say, in the sense that it is Gamaka laden. Let us look at the Arona as we sing it today and see how this Gamakas occur in this particular ragam. Like Sagama Panisa Sani Dapa Magarisa. So though, interestingly again here, though we say Sani Dapa, most of the time we see that the phrase Pani Sadapa Gama Pani Sadapa, this Sadapa occurs very frequently as a in fact a key phrase, I would say, the signature phrase of Dhanyasi you would see that is being used here. And if you look at the Gamakas, it's mainly on the Gandhara and the Nishada, like Saga Magarisa Saga Mapani Gama Pani Sadapa Dapa Magarisa. Again, the way the Gandhara is oscillated in the ascent and the descent are also quite different in terms of the nature of the Gamakam. But nevertheless, the Gandhara and the Nishada are the probably the notes which are given so much of importance. And if you look at it, Sa Ni Da Pa or Sa Da Pa, then Magari Sa. So these are all like, the phrase oriented ragams. Among that this comes. So you cannot actually do permutation combination of notes to get Dhanyasi. It is more phrase oriented, and the phrases are which define this particular ragam. Let us look at a few compositions to see how this ragam has been handled by various composers. First, Bhadrachala Ramdas. Ramadaya Judave Bhadrachala Damananu Provave Sita Ramadaya Judave. A composition of Sri Dikshadhar. Shri Ranganathaya, Shri Ranganathaya, Shri Ranganathaya, Namaste, Namaste, Shri Ranganathaya. Our Tyagarajar, Rama Birama Manasu, Rama Birama, or a composition of Papanasam Sivan. Balakrishna Padamalar Parnivar Kidarillai Varaguna Balakrishna. Shama Sastri has composed a very beautiful composition in this. Meena Lochana Brahma Yochana Meena Lochana Brahma. Beautiful Rendigala Kriti of Tyagarajar actually defines the ragam in a quite elaborate way. Dhyaname Varamaina, a very beautiful composition. Let's look at a few lines in that. Dhyaname Varamaina Gangaya Sraname Manasagaya Dhyana me Varamaina Ganga Sana me Manasaya Dhyana me. Thus we see that it is indeed interesting here in this particular ragam to see how the name itself actually denotes something else in the present from the past. We see that how the transition has happened, where Dhanyasi as a 5-note scale now has become what we call as the Audava Sampurna Ragam, as a janya of the 8th Melam. And of course, the compositions of all these great Vagekaras are very, very important in terms of defining the ragam and giving it that indelible kind of a mark, in terms of its lakshana. So after the time of the Trinity, where all of them have composed compositions in this, we now know that this is the Swarupa of Dhanyasi, and over time also we see that the same lakshana has been maintained till date.
CM 365, all about Carnatic music.